According to Rick Riordan, fairness does not mean everyone gets the same. Fairness means everyone gets what they need. Some of us are fighting for equality, whether in gender, religion, self, identity, and many more. It's because we are not totally accepted by many, judged, and even treated uneven. Sad to think, but it's reality. There are still people who are less educated, or should I say, they don't have enough knowledge about such matters. But what do we really need? Acceptance or equality? The word equality and acceptance are often confusing because at a glance, they appear to mean the same thing. They both have to do with the way people are treated, and both are used in the fields of law, government, economics, and so on. Often, these terms are used to describe actions, laws, or rules that are attempting to end or oppose injustice or unfair treatment of people. Nowadays, there are a lot of forces and groups built for a specific reason. There is for women, gender, and etc., fighting for something they don't have but they deserve to have. In this presentation, we are going to learn how mass movement changed the society. Feminist and LGBTQI+ is the focus in this topic. We will learn how these two movements has a big part in changing the society. A feminist is someone who supports equal rights for women. The word feminist comes from feminism, which originally meant simply being feminine or being a woman, but gained the meaning advocacy of women's rights in the late 1800s. Feminist is a range of social movement and ideologies that aim to define and establish the political, economic, personal, and social equality of the sexes. Feminism incorporates the position that societies prioritize the male point of view and that women are treated unjustly within those societies. And now, we will learn the 4 waves of feminism. The first wave of feminism took place in the late 19th and early 20th century, emerging out of an environment of urban industrialism and liberal, socialist politics. The goal of this wave was to open up opportunities for women with a focus on suffrage. The wave formally began at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848 when 300 men and women rallied to the cause of equality for women. Elizabeth Cady Stanton of 1902 drafted the Seneca Falls Declaration outlining the new movement's ideology and political strategies. The second wave began in the 1960s and continued into 1990s. This wave unfolded in the context of the anti-war and civil rights movements and the growing self-consciousness of a variety of minority groups around the world. In this phase, sexuality and reproductive rights were dominant issues, and much on the movement's energy was focused on the passing the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution guaranteeing social equality regardless of sex. Because the second wave of feminism found voice amid so many other social movements, it was easily marginalized and viewed as less presenting than others. The third wave of feminism began in the mid-90s and was informed by post-colonial and post-modern thinking. In this phase, many constructs were destabilized, including the notion of universal womanhood, body, gender, sexuality, and heteronormativity. An aspect of third-wave feminism that mystified the mothers of the earlier feminist movement was the readoption by young feminists of the very lipstick, high heels, and cleavage proudly exposed by low-cut necklines that the first 2 phases of the movement identified with male oppression. Pink Floor expressed this new position when she said that it's possible to have a push-up bra and a brain at the same time. Fourth wave feminism is a feminist movement that began around 2012 and is characterized by a focus on the empowerment of women, the use of internet tools, and intersectionality. The fourth wave seeks greater gender equality by focusing on gendered norms and marginalization of women's society. Fourth wave movement within feminism that, although debated by some, began about 2012. Its focus on sexual harassment, body shaming, and rape culture among other issues. A key component was the use of social media to highlight and address these concerns. The goal of the feminists is to fight for each woman's right, especially on education. Feminists knew that girls and women must be encouraged to seek an education and not just as something to fall back on if they are to become and to be seen as fully equal. Feminists also worked for the Equal Right Amendment, the Equal Pay Act, the addition of sex discrimination to the Civil Rights Act, and the other laws that would guarantee equality. Feminists also fight for the League of Women Voters, which has existed since the after women won the vote, has supported educating women, informed voting, and worked to promote women as candidates. And women had often been shut out of unions or relegated to a ladies' auxiliary through much of the 20th century. As the feminist movement gained momentum, pressure on the union movement to represent more jobs that were pink-collar jobs, mostly held by women, increased. Feminists bring equality into society such as freedom to speech, rights to have an education, join in political, economy, cultural, and choose whatever they want, developing laws for the rights and protection to all the members of the society. It is a belief that all women and men are deserve equality and opportunity treatment and others. We all know that in the history, women is under control of men. By empowering women, we can see the changes of the society or world. There is an equal shape in everything between men and women. There is an equal right. Women can pay just what the men receiving. Lastly, women have the freedom to express all their opinions, suffrage, and emotions. Roles of feminism movement in transforming the societies through the parliaments of street, civil disobedience, and armed revolution. In the Parliament of Street, enactment of women law and making equal law for the rights of all. Women are more courageous since there is a law that protects their rights. They are able to express their thoughts, idea, and opinion. For example, they are joining in women empowerment organizations. In civil disobedience, in some parts of the country same-sex marriage is legal, but in the Philippines is not allowing to be legal, especially the Catholic priest, for example, protesting about their freedom of choice. The role of feminism movement in armed force revolution, they became aggressive in joining organization and fight for their rights in joining organization, attending on press freedom that could benefit them by participating in the protest.
Social change is a way in which human interactions and relationships change cultural and social institutions over time and have a significant impact on the society. As a result of these social changes, relationships, institutions, and cultural norms have changed. In developmental perspective, it is a powerful vehicle for bringing about environmental and behavioral changes by working cooperatively with and through of individuals associated by geographic closeness, special interests of comparable situations to address challenges affecting those people's well-being. Feminism is a relatively new force in politics. It addresses the underlying assumptions that make politics a male-dominated discipline and seeks to improve the position of women within it. In recent decades, feminism has been present throughout the world in varying forms and has begun to make an impact in many regions. Feminist thought can be broadly defined as the ideology of trying to advance the social role of women. However, the diversity of feminist ideas prevent clarification of the movement as a whole. Assessing the impact of movement of so diverse is problematic. I will define feminism as aiming to improve the status of women, allowing the examination of varying movements. A common feminist aim is increased female participation within legislatures. Many have condemned the male domination of professional politics and have promoted the belief that women's social experience gives them different expertise which would be valuable in government. The act of forming women's groups can be positive even if no formal political progress is made. The spread of feminist thought can give women the ideas and confidence to make changes within their lives and communities. Making women aware of their rights has been an essential element of this.
Cultural feminism, the view that there is a female nature or female essence, attempts to rebel and redefine attributes ascribed to femaleness. It is also used to describe theories that commend innate differences between women and men. One of the most important economic impacts of women's rights is increased labor force participation. Women remain a largely underutilized source of talent and labor. Women currently comprise more than 40% of the world's labor force, but are paid less than men and spend more of their doing housework and caring for children than men do. Within the developing world, women are often relegated to work on small farms and are more likely to be employed in informal and low-paid jobs than men are. Expanding the role of women's societies also expand the diversity of skills and viewpoints in both economic and political sectors. When women enter the workforce compete on an even plane with men, there is greater potential to see creativity and innovation for women. Greater gender diversity in workplace leadership has also been shown to increase organizational effectiveness. In the political realm, international trends have shown that female voters and policy matters are more likely to support policies aimed at closing the gender gap. Reforms to give equal voting rights to women in developing countries can help continue economic development, spurred by expanding the rights of women.
Most people are unaware of the struggles that LGBTQI community encounters on a daily basis. The LGBTQI community is seeking more acceptance and understanding. Every day, someone who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transsexual or transgender must get up and confront the challenges of living this lifestyle. They must battle for equality and hope that they will not be understaffed just because of how they conduct their lives. People are getting more comfortable with who they are, yet it is still not universally accepted. It's continual struggle in the thoughts of those who don't feel supported by their loved ones or who believe they can't be who they actually want to be. Alam natin na ang mga LGBTQ ay nabubuli at minsan tinatapak-tapakan din nila. Hindi pantay ang tingin nila sa kanila katulad na lamang sa trabaho. Ilan lamang ang tumatanggap sa mga LGBTQ. Kaya dapat iparamdam at irespeto natin sa mga LGBTQ na mahalaga sila at pantay-pantay tayong lahat. LGBTQ proving that everything is not all about genders.
Gradually, the growth of the public media and ideals of human rights drew together activists from all walks of life, who drew courage from sympathetic medical studies, bond literature, emerging sex research, and a climate of greater democracy. By the 20th century, a movement in recognition of gays and lesbians was underway, abetted by the social climate of feminism and a new anthropology of difference. However, throughout 150 years of homosexual social movement, leaders and organizers struggled to address the very different concerns and identity issues of gay men, women identifying as lesbians, and other identifying as gender variant or non-binary. White, male, and Western activists whose groups and theories gained leverage against homophobia did not necessarily represent the range of racial, class, and national identities, complicating a broader LGBT agenda. Women were often left out altogether. Since the Sochi Bill was proposed and passed, it gives freedom and opportunities to all members of the LGBTQI+ and had huge impact on people in the society, not to just underestimate the members of the LGBTQ. LGBTQI+ bring the change to society because community and society began to recognize their rights. People are accepting them in the society. What are the roles of LGBTQI+ movement in transforming the societies through the parliaments of street, civil disobedience, and armed revolution. Parliament of State LGBTQI+ or presence in a National Assembly will make more likely the passage of laws that heighten equality on the basis of sexual orientation. In civil disobedience, in some parts of the country, same-sex marriage is legal, but in the Philippines is not allowing to be legal, especially the Catholic priest, for example, protesting about their freedom of choice. In armed revolution, they became aggressive in joining organization and fight for their rights in joining organization, attending on press freedom that could benefit them by participating in the protests. LGBTQI+ people are now more societally accepted than ever before, according to a recent survey done by NORC at the University of Chicago, with Americans dramatically moving toward largely accepting LGBTQI people, something many of us could never have imagined before. LGBTQI+ rights mean nothing if we can't stay alive. They mean nothing if we can't find personal happiness without or within our political and social successes. We must begin to look at these tragedies as a measure of how much work we have left to do to the build of social safety.
Socio-political, cultural, and economic context of contemporary society in the LGBTQI+ movement. There is no any hindrance in political aspects that the LGBTQI+ experiencing. However, some people are close-minded in terms of letting them run for any position. LGBT culture is a culture shared by lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer individuals. It is sometimes referred to as queer culture, indicating people who are queer. While the term gay culture may be used to mean LGBT culture or to refer specifically to homosexual culture. Not all LGBT people identify with LGBT culture. This may be due to geographic distance, unawareness of the subculture's existence, fear of social stigma, or a preference for remaining unidentified with sexuality or gender-based subcultures or communities. The queercore and gay shame movements critique what they see as the commercialization and self-imposed ghettoization of LGBT culture. Child poverty. Children raised by same-sex couples are almost twice as likely to be living in poverty. 23% of children raised by male same-sex couples are poor, as are 19% of children raised by female same-sex couples. By comparison, the poverty rate is 12% for children being raised by married opposite-sex couples. In addition to the above disparities, LGBTQ people are more likely to face homelessness, which is discussed in more detail in the Housing and Homelessness Issue Guide. The economic disadvantages faced by LGBTQ are in the part of result of discrimination. 30 states do not provide explicit protections from discrimination for LGBTQ people in employment, housing, and public accommodations. The income gap between LGBTQ people and straight people is greater in those states with weaker legal protections of LGBTQ rights. Gay rights movement, also called homosexual rights movement or gay liberation movement, civil rights movement that advocates equal rights for gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender persons, seeks to eliminate sodomy laws barring homosexual acts between consenting adults, and calls for an end to discrimination against gay men, lesbians, and transgender persons in employment, credit, housing, public accommodations, and other areas of life.